Howdy folks, and welcome to a World of Tanks battle unlike any I have ever shown you in the last 7.5 years that this YouTube channel has been active. Also featuring a tank that I've very rarely shown you. It's the mighty duck, the AMX-40 French Tier 4 light tank, driven for us today by a 601, hereinafter referred to in time-honoured fashion as Dave. You know, I can remember the first time I played the AMX-40, right when the French tanks were introduced. Like most people, I'd gotten very excited at video footage of the French autoloaders. They were the first autoloaders to be introduced into the game, and so I quickly started grinding down the line, past the AMX-38 at Tier 3, and very quickly unlocked the AMX-40 at Tier 4. And I got inordinately excited when I realised that this tank had 60 to 70 millimeters of armour at Tier 4 and a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour. What dark French sorcery is this? Of course, while that's not technically an outright lie, after all, if you drop any tank off a cliff, at some point it's going to do 40 kilometers per hour. This machine is never going to go faster than 20 on level ground under its own power. Also, its gun is kind of shit. Which gun, Jingles? Well, kind of all of them really. It's got a choice of two 47mm and a short-barreled 75mm, and they all have horrible accuracy. Although the two 47mm do have pretty good aiming time. In fact, they have very good aiming time, but they have terrible penetration and damage. None of this, of course, is going to matter, not for Dave, and not in this battle, because he is about to notice something that the more eagle-eyed amongst you may have already noticed. Yes, he hasn't remembered to load any ammunition. Yeah, we've all done it. We've all been there at some point. Usually, right at the point where we discover for the first time that there's a little tick box next to resupply ammunition after each battle. But at some point, every one of us has gone into battle either with no ammunition or not enough ammunition to last the game. So, Dave, what are you going to do? You can't shoot anyone, and you can't ram anybody in this tank. I mean, you might get lucky and somebody will try to ram you, but with a top effective speed of 20 kilometers per hour, there's just no, it's not going to happen. Well, a lot of people would just outright give up at this point, but not Dave. Because the matchmaker has been very kind to the AMX-40 in this battle. He's top tier. And that 60 to 70 millimeters of armour, which is quite impressive for a Tier 4 tank of any standard, let alone a light tank. While that's still not quite enough these days, because there are plenty of machines that have guns that you're likely to fight in this machine that can penetrate 60 to 70 millimeters of armour, they can only reliably penetrate it if you give them a flat angle to shoot at. And that's the thing about the AMX-40. There are no flat angles on this tank. All of the rounding and sloping of this tank's armour mean that effectively it's covered by about 130 millimeters of armour everywhere. And there's not a lot at Tier 4 that can reliably penetrate that, even if it does play the game with its forehead on the 2 key. And because this is a low tier game, played late at night with a low server population, there are only actually 3 players on each team, with the rest of the numbers being made up by bots. And the bots aren't exactly well known for loading the gold. Actual players, of course, have no shame whatsoever. Although, in the case of the Panzer IIIJ over there, who is emptying his pockets at Dave as fast as he can pull the trigger, it is, if we're going to be completely fair here, totally understandable. I mean, the Panzer IIIJ's 50mm gun, firing standard ammunition, has 67mm of penetration. The AMX-40 has 60 to 70mm of armour, pretty much everywhere, so firing standard ammunition, the Panzer IIIJ would only reasonably expect to penetrate half of the time. But he would only expect to be able to penetrate half of the time if he was firing at a target that had 60 to 70mm of armour at a flat angle. And the AMX-40 does not have 60 to 70mm of armour at flat angles. Thanks to the rounding and sloping, as we mentioned before, the effective armour of the AMX-40 is more like 130mm. And by a remarkable coincidence, when the Panzer IIIJ loads the gold ammunition into its 50mm gun, it has exactly 130mm of penetration, which means that even loading the gold, the Panzer IIIJ still only has a 50-50 chance of penetrating Dave's armour. And judging by the hit counter at the bottom left corner of the screen next to the tank paper doll, either his credit card has been refused or he doesn't carry a lot of gold ammo and saves it for special occasions just like this. I'll bet he was wishing he'd saved a little bit more. So, while young Dave here is completely incapable of inflicting any kind of damage on any of the tanks on the enemy team, bots, players, doesn't really matter, none of them appear to be capable of inflicting any further damage on him either. Which means that Dave finds himself in the highly unusual position of loading into a battle with no ammunition, and thanks to his, let's call it aggressive scouting, even though he's not doing any damage, he's done almost 700 spotting damage, thanks to scouting with his face. And in a tank that only has 300 health, he's already blocked more than 2,500 damage with his armour. How high exactly do you think that number is going to go before the end of this battle? Strap yourselves in, grab yourselves some popcorn, and let's find out. Well, there's only two of them left. The cruiser up ahead is a bot, although he's a bot who is at least smart enough to load the high explosive. Even though it's not doing a huge amount of damage, it's better than nothing, which is what pretty much everybody else has been doing to Dave so far. Oh, hang on a second. There's a brief slope here. Dave's going for the ram. Can he top 20 kilometers per hour? No, not quite. I think he managed at 18. He needs to be careful. Going at speeds like that, and the AMX-40 will give you a nosebleed. But he did manage to inflict 5 damage. 5 whole damage on the cruiser. It's not a lot. In fact, it's actually quite pathetic, but it's the only damage Dave has managed to do to anybody in this game. And damn it, he's earned it. He's also managed to block over 4,000 damage. Mostly thanks to this Panzer IIIJ, who must be out of ammunition by now. Oh no, he still had a shot. Didn't do any damage, of course. And now he's dead. And I'm sure the P-26 and the Marder are extremely grateful for Dave for all of that spotting, which allowed them to rack up 9 kills between the two of them. Dave finished that match in a game where he started with no ammunition loaded, with 4,300 damage blocked by his armour and 775 spotting damage. And let's not forget the 5 damage that he did manage to inflict by himself. I have seen tier 10 heavies that struggle to do half of that amount of damage blocked with armour. And if that wasn't worth 10 minutes of your time, well, quite frankly, you obviously lead far too exciting an existence to be wasting any of your time here on YouTube. Dave, well done. I hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.